we were out there. There were a lot of white students came down to Mississippi,
Yeah.
and we were out here singing, and the song we were singing was "Old Freedom," and one verse in the song said, "No more." One verse said, "No more white folks over me, over me. But before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free." And another one and was that, "No more Mr. Charlie over me," which Mr. Charlie was the white man.
Okay.
And the ironic thing, I still remember to this day, the man that lived in that house right there, name was Mr. Charlie. Yeah.
That's funny.
Martin Luther King did this letter from the Birmingham jail, and his letter was to white clergy in Birmingham, and part of their response back to him was that it's gonna come, but it's gonna be over time. So wait a little while. And then through all one of his other responses to that was that why we can't wait for all these years, and I have, and I don't know the answer, but I may have mentioned to you in 1968, right before Dr. King was killed, he came to St. Paul Church to speak, right before he went to Memphis. But my mother was always sort of an activist, and so she wanted to go and hear Dr. King. My generation at the time had stopped listening to Dr. King. We were listening to Malcolm saying that the white man's the devil. We were listening to Stokely Carmichael and H. Rap Brown saying we need black power. And so my mother wanted to go hear Dr. King. And the mind of a teenagers was that, you know, Dr. King just old, you know, he talking about nonviolence and, you know, and all this. And so my mother wanted to go. So we walked from where we lived in the KC, and I walked my mother over to St. Paul Church, and I didn't go in the church. I left because I didn't want to hear Dr. King. And I wished many times that I had now, but that was the kind of the mindset that that I had at that time, and not just myself, but several others had at that time. And it's a regret now, but I think the integration of the schools were, it was not time. It was time, but it wasn't time. It was time from the standpoint that blacks should have been treated better, but it was not a time to force, because when the government forces something, when the government forced that, they walked away from it. They didn't come and make sure it worked. They walked away from it. And it has, you know, it's the same way all over the country. And what is the answer? I have no idea, but I don't think you can force anybody to do something that they really in their heart didn't want to do. And so that I agree with my barber that it failed. There is this gospel song that says, my chains are gone. And I told them that night that, I hated all of them for a long time, but my chains are gone now. I've let that go, and because it, and I guess I began to realize it when I said my daughter was at Watkins, and I couldn't keep my word to myself that I would never go back when I've got my flesh and blood there, that I love more than anything in the world. And here she is, and I'm gonna say, well, because of what they did back then, I'm not going to see her. No, I had to let that go.
Just what would you say is your most proud moment or moments as mayor of Laurel in the past 10 years that you've been doing it?
3 times that the surface of 3 times that I'm the most proud of, and this is back to why I wanted this to be a place that somebody comes to, is that for 3 swearing-in ceremonies, my daughter, who said she'd never come back, has held the Bible that I took the oath on. That's 3 of the greatest moments that I've ever felt, because she's in Laurel, holding the Bible for me to be sworn in as mayor of Laurel.
Governor of Mississippi says he will sign a bill to change the state flag if the legislature votes to remove the Confederate battle emblem today. Mississippi is the only remaining state whose flag celebrates the Confederacy. Days ago, the mayor of Laurel, 30 miles north of Hattiesburg, removed the flag by executive order.
They told Dr. King to wait. Time for waiting is over.
It initially came to disavow, and I just wanted to, because I think talking about making it a place for people to want to come in, I think we had a stain flying over our state for a long time, and so I just wanted to show you this picture, and if you could just put into words for me a little bit, like what you obviously have lots of memories and experiences that were led up to come out, chains being free from Watkins. I'm interested, what were you feeling in that moment whenever you did that?
A lot of people, when these emotions begin to surface because of the flag, when I decided to remove the flag from city properties, I think so many thoughts, so many memories. I thought of my mother, I thought of my father. He would come home from work and he would always be mad when he came home from work. And my mother would ask him something, what's wrong? He'd say, I don't know how many people are familiar now with this term, but he said, it's them damn Peckerwoods. He said, and they did this to him today, and they did that to him today. And he said, they're doing it just because I'm a nigga. And so that was coming back. My mother, as I mentioned before, she worked for she worked at two different places. She worked for a white preacher, and she worked for a school teaching couple. And when my mother didn't have transportation, so they would have to come and pick her up to take her to work. And when I could almost understand the teachers, not that I really understood it, but when the preacher, and it was usually his wife, sometimes he would come, but when my mother, who was going to their house to cook their food, to take care of their children, to clean their house, wash their clothes, and when they came to the house, she would have to get in the back seat because the tradition, the norms was that she couldn't sit in the front seat because she was not worthy of the front seat. Just like going to a restaurant. A lot of times the black women were cooking in the restaurant, but the black people who wanted to eat something there, they couldn't come in the front because they weren't worthy. They had to go in the back. And so all of those things were coming back, and because I knew that all these things were tied to this flag, and the amazing thing about this flag, and this flag was incorporated into the Mississippi flag after the Civil War, just like the statues and all. It was after the Civil War, but it was to remind blacks that they may have said you won the war. You all may supposedly be free, but you still not worthy. You still, when you're walking into the courthouse to go to trial, there's supposed to be Lady Justice, and you walk by these flags, you always reminded that you may be coming in here for trial, but just look at what's flying over here. You still not worthy. You still not equal. And all these things were coming back. And to realize that I was now in a position that I can do something about this. This little naggerhead boy from the KC, that you could say, we're gonna take it down. So, it is, it's still emotional. And one of the things that's her son. So it was so much